Welcome everybody to some more Sonic X Shadow Generations. Thanks for starting us off with that Sonic Heroes idle animation there, my man. So yeah, right off the bat, I am using the Dream Team Shadow model today because I love one thing about modding in the Hedgehog engine games is that people love adding their spin-off costumes. I've talked about this many times, but of course this extends to models and animations, stuff like that. The cool thing about the Dream Team Shadow model in this game particularly is that the art styles of Dream Team in the mainline games are quite different. Dream Team is a little similar to Lost World in a certain respect, where they kind of try to be really cartoony and like vibrant, whereas every little part of the facial details on the Dream Team models make them look really huggable and friendly. Like the little micro details in the way that Shadow's eyes move around on this model just makes him feel a lot more huggable than the Shadow Generations model, and especially like the movie model or something. And I've talked about it multiple times before. I think it's really sick that they added the movie model as a DLC in this game officially, because you get to play as multiple different depictions of Shadow with multiple different art styles in one game, and that's why I'm really excited to use the Dream Team model here today. Another thing that really sets this apart is the fact that Dream Team is exclusive to Apple devices. You can't play it on PC or console at all, everybody knows this. Can't even play it on Android. So it's nice to have him playable, because if you don't have access to Dream Team, you've probably never seen these animations. I don't think he has his voice lines from Dream Team. They're not that different from this game. I don't think he had very many that were like newly recorded anyway. This is one of my favorite hangout spots when I'm checking out models, because I love seeing how this animation looks like on different models. I love the way that his quills blow. The red and black on this model are very bright. Like, he looks pitch black on the Dream Team model, which is really cool. Now, the Dream Team model is inherently a little less detailed than the Generations model, just because of art style differences, and again, being for mobile phones, where it's gonna be lower poly on average, even on the highest settings on the best devices. But I really love that they added the animations, because you might not have seen them before. Like, something as simple as just his regular hover boost animation is very different than the Shadow Generations version of the hover boost animation. He has both of his arms to his side, as opposed to the Generations version, where they're kind of bent towards his chest. And because of the, like, infinitely more cartoony stylization of Dream Team, I find that his knees and legs bend in a U-shaped arc a lot more exaggerated than in base Generations, and it just kind of ends up making him look really goofy, especially from the direct back, because of how his feet are curled up right next to his head. I don't know. A lot of people don't like his hover boost animation in Dream Team, and I can totally understand why. But I think the fact that Dream Team is already such a cartoony and wholesome looking game, I think this fits him very well, and I like the distinguishment between this posing and the Generations posing, because they very easily could have copied Generations' homework and just redid that, you know? His skating animation on this model is actually different than his skating animation in Generations. They look very similar, which is why I'm like that they could have easily just copied the homework. And it's also really neat to see the brand new animations fitted onto a model that's made for a completely different game. In general, I find the animation quality to be a lot better in Dream Team than it is in Generations or Frontiers. That was definitely a major focus of what they were doing for that game. The stretchiness of, like, the Doomwing jumping really feels at home on the Dream Team model, if you ask me. Another cool thing is Shadow's expressions when he's doing rail grinding. It's just ever so slightly different than the Frontiers rail grinding. The posing is very similar, but he's just got more of a grumpy look on his face the whole time. It's kind of funny, actually. Also, it's kind of fun seeing, like, again, this really cartoony, wholesome version of Shadow throwing hands so aggressively in comparison to the abilities that he has in, say, base Dream Team. Gonna skip right through here, and here we are for the main course of today's meal. Welcome to Metal Overlord! Now, the main theme of today's video is that I love that people can put skins over Shadow. I love that they can put it over the NPCs like Rouge and Maria, but another thing that people have been doing is they've been putting it over the bosses as well. And here we are with Titan Metal Sonic, aka Metal Sonic Kai. This mod goes by both names, and Metal Sonic Kai is notorious for looking scary as hell. Another thing that we have added on here is a voice mod for Metal Overlord.
You can't hope to defeat me. Accept your fate, you fake hedgehog.
Now, I will say, the idea behind this is really cool, but it doesn't have the intensity of the Ray Chase version. It's based off of the Amiga 500, which is a very old computer, and it's the classic text-to-speech voice that you probably see in a lot of, like, horror-related things nowadays. It's really raw seeing this different depiction of Shadow from a mobile game versus this depiction of Metal Overlord. From a Knuckles spin-off game, by the way. Someone that we've never seen in full 3D. And if there was any character that you could mod this on top of, it would definitely be Metal Overlord from this game specifically. There hasn't been a modern fight with a giant Metal Sonic character since, what, Sonic Heroes? So yeah, it's been over 20-some years. And Metal Overlord, on his own, is already really creepy looking with his tentacle cables, his crab hand, his big slicer claw hand, which, by the way, this big slicer claw hand reminds me a lot of the actual vanilla Metal Sonic Kai from Knuckles Chaotix. Like, this looks like it's made for him. Another thing that I think is really creepy about Metal Sonic Kai is that this expression on him, like his muzzle and everything, it looks kind of dead. Like it's just some kind of carcass or skull. I don't know. He looks completely lifeless with all the lethality in him.
I'll skewer you.
Like, his voice is dead too, which I guess you could argue is very in character for everything I just said.
When I have to use chaos control, that power already belongs to me.
But I don't know, the performance is just a little too, cold. One of the best parts about Metal Overlord and Shadow's fight is the, personal nature behind their beef. Their back and forth, their playground insults, you know what I'm saying? Look at the way he's charging up. This looks like it would be a kaiju monster in any other series. Like, this would be an untouchable monster you're running from in any other franchise, but because it's Sonic the Hedgehog, we get to fight back. Now, the flash in his eye is gonna look a lot cooler because he has a fully red theme all over his paint job here. Just a little lens flare coming out of his eyes. So raw, man. Metal Overlord is probably the boss with the most mods for it right now. People love redubbing him because of how iconic the original Hero's filter was on his voice. Oh, Shadow's eyes look really pretty in this scene from that angle.
Let's see how long you last on such unstable terrain.
I like that delivery. The pausing on the words was nice. Oh, get in the corner. This is how you play ping pong the best. But I also just love how shiny all the materials are in Shadow Generations. It makes the fan creations look like a real DLC skin that you would see for this boss. Like the little hexagonal texturing on Metal Overlord's face works really well for Metal Sonic Kai. Now, why is he also called Titan Metal Sonic, you may be asking? Well, that's actually his name in the Archie comics, so 2 days in a row here, we have an Archie Sonic-related mod. That's cool. I want to hear this line.
Not Sonic, not anyone.
See, it just doesn't have that raw anger in it. The reason that I chose the Amiga voice specifically is actually because I find Metal Sonic Kai to be a quite disturbing thing to look at. It is terrifying in its original depiction and this 3D model depiction where you get to see it from every angle, more detailed. He gets to stare blankly directly at you in a full 360 degrees. It's terrifying, especially when he roars. It's much more frightening than the Dragon Head version. So I thought it would be very fitting to choose the text-to-speech voice. Even if it isn't your cup of tea, like, I don't think it's a 10 out of 10, just because of the performance. The filter is great. There are, like, a million different redubs for Metal Overlord with different filters put over them, too, to make it their own thing or to make it more similar to the original Sonic Heroes voice. You have choice. You have options. Another thing that I really appreciate about having Metal Overlord in this game is, aside from the fact that we just get to see a final boss in full HD with the final boss theme playing in a mid-game boss, which just, like, does wonder for power scaling. It's also the fact that we don't really get to see highly detailed Eggman creations anymore. We usually just get to see a different villain taking the main spot, but here we get the final fortress, Eggman's base of operations. We get this really detailed look at a Metal Sonic model that has, like, all of these holsters for cannons and has all of these, like, razor-sharp points on him and everything too. We get to see that in more detail, and it really puts into perspective how dangerous Eggman is as a villain. This is what that flabby, bald man is capable of. As opposed to the other antagonists like Black Doom and The End and Zavog, who get to look visually imposing. You don't really see that from Eggman anymore. But yeah, honestly, if you ask me, I feel like playing the Metal Sonic Kai version of this boss is a bit more visually appealing to me than the original Metal Overlord design. The Metal Overlord design is fire. It's probably like the coolest mid-game boss you could choose for Shadow Story, I guess besides Mephiles. But just from sheer design alone, sheer aura alone. Like, look at his little crab hand. He's just this cosmic horror amalgamation of many different things, of many different life forms, with this really screwed up depiction of what Sonic the Hedgehog himself looks like in the face. God, his eyes are just so big on the Dream Team model. I love it. But yeah, just anytime we get a close-up of this guy's face, it unsettles me. And I think that's what makes it all the more cooler to see Shadow actually beat the hell out of him. Like, look at that close-up, look how close you are to those big chompers. It's funny, too, because in a lot of mods, people don't want to go the extra mile to, like, rig it to fully work properly with the animations, and I really don't mind the fact that Metal Sonic Kai's face doesn't really animate or move. I think it's fine. I think it works pretty decently well with his whole dead look, monstrous personality. Just also really nice seeing the more detailed Final Fortress in a modern game. There are also plenty of recolors of Metal Overlord as well, like one that emulates the original PC port's light blue, and one that is just the regular Metal Overlord design with the colors of Metal Sonic Kai. And there's also just a blue version of Metal Sonic Kai for the Overlord fight, so it has more of the design cues from Metal Overlord with just the face of Kai, which, like I said, I think that fits this game particularly really nicely, and is probably how I will continue to play the Metal Overlord fight in future plays. I said it in the past 2 videos I made on shadow modding, but I just adore it when people add the custom skin on the title screen. And with a new boss, we need a new outfit for Shadow. More appropriately, we need to armor him up for this next fight, this next battle. This is the Warrior Shadow skin from Sonic Forces Speed Battle, the mobile game, the one that I always talk about because it has great designs and the gameplay is surprisingly fun. Anyways, getting a little off topic here. I just love the way that mod makers see this awesome design from Spin-Off Media and they're like, okay, but what if I could play it in the mainline, a game that more people probably care about, that more people probably have fun with, and they go this extra mile to make the reflections and all the individual materials fit our mainline depiction of Shadow so it doesn't feel out of place for the average person, and it isn't just a low-poly mobile model. I also just really love, like, the gold that balances on more parts of Shadow's design on this outfit. I think it's really pretty, especially when he's boosting with his orange aura. And I love the way that the light reflects off of it, especially in these underground segments where there's less light. Oh, his silhouette just looks so appealing this way. That being said, why do we need armor? Well, you know me. I'm such a big fan of the Mephiles fight in this game that I have to play it once every single day, which is a thing I promised I'd do if you get in this game. But the reason that I specifically wanted to fit him in a Forces armor outfit is because this boss skin is something that I've wanted since the game released. I thought it was the perfect match, the best idea, especially because it was announced in the same stream that Mephiles in Generations was. The Oni Mephiles skin from Speed Battle. This is Mephiles' first spin-off design, an alternate costume in the whole franchise, maybe? I could be wrong on that.
I will defeat you, then restore myself to the timeline.
And I've also got another voice filter mod. This mod pitches Mephiles down. It keeps the brilliant performance of Robbie Daymond, but it just pitches it down to sound a little bit more like Dan Green and a little bit more like a menacing god of the darkness that will gladly take blood sacrifices. Now here's Oni Mephiles. He's got this really shiny crimson crown with the horns on it. He's got these red pointed quills as opposed to just the dark purple pointed quills on the regular Mephiles. He's got this little tattered cape at the back. He's got an actual little outfit this time. He isn't completely naked. I love that it just changes his purple flames to be pinkish red. It makes him look fiery. Absolute raw. And as a huge fan of Mephiles, it was insane to see 2 Mephiles announcements in one Sonic livestream. They announced him for this game, and they announced this outfit as a playable character in Speed Battle. And I knew right then and there that it would be a mistake to not put him in. And I decked out Shadow in armor to fit this matchup because, I don't know, it just felt right. You have this warrior Shadow that uses, like, spears and stuff to defend himself with this mythical Oni version of Mephiles. It just felt like a really good fit for the two. Like I said in my last video, I love prolonging the attacking animation on the Doom Blast here, because I just think it's so cool to see people the same size attack each other. It makes the fight feel so much more even. The hand-to-hand combat just has so much more opportunity for a back and forth between the two characters. It's brilliant. Like, it just reminds me of Dragon Ball, seeing 2 characters that are the same size.
My blade will give you a taste of despair.
He'll give you a taste of despair. Ooh, that's a line that I think only plays during this Mephiles attack if you hold the Doom Blast for too long.
Did you really think I'd fall for the same trick twice?
God, he sounds so much more sassy with this filter too. Damn. Just attacking blindly won't be enough. I've never heard that voice line from Shadow. Wow, I didn't realize that they have so many hints for this boss fight. I love intentionally doing that just because the interaction just looks so cool. And apparently there's more voice lines that I just haven't heard before, and I have played this boss fight a bajillion times. Ooh, this cutscene's gonna look awesome with their 2 little outfits. Like thematically, they just match each other, dude.
It's time to raise the curtain on this macabre play.
I really like this voice filter because his screams of agony and his frustration in the performance sounds more like a deity and less like just some guy that we hate. Like, I love the inflection at the end of his voice during that voice line in the original as well, and that just cranked it up by 10 for me. I swear to God. See if I can hit it. Oh, cutting it close, but I did it. This is something that I have to do every time I play this fight because it just feels so amazing to stop everything around you and have everyone be at the mercy of you at the very last second, especially when your opponent is duplicating himself. Like, how incredible, man. See if I can get the full homing attack. Yep. If you're not careful enough, he will just hit you and reset the double Mephiles phase. Oh, that's awesome. It just feels right seeing these 2 designs side by side. It's like they're from the same alternate universe. He's just so red, man. It complements his palette so well and distinctively sets him apart from the original design, which I think is what makes this such a strong alternate costume for him. I just think it's really cool because every time I get a particularly good skin mod for Shadow Generations, I always like to think of it as DLC. It's also really fun to imagine that the NPCs like Rouge and Omega and the bosses like Mephiles would get their own DLCs for whatever reason, just appealing to people that specifically find those characters the most interesting. And they kind of did that with Sonic Superstars, where they gave you the Lego Eggman skins, so... Now, there is one more boss skin. Currently, the only boss skin for Mephiles is the Oni Mephiles or Shadow. I don't think Shadow over Mephiles is very fitting. It's not really my pick. There isn't a whole lot for Mephiles, which, to be fair, there aren't a lot of official Mephiles designs, so that makes a lot of sense. Whereas with Metal Sonic, you have plenty of things to choose from. There is one skin mod for BioLizard, but I already covered that in a different video, so I'm not going to go over it in this one, but here's some footage of that. So funny thing, right as I get the idea to record a video about custom boss skins, and I go on about how the only BioLizard skin is the Christmas one, yeah, we actually just got a brand new one an hour ago as I'm editing this. And of course, it's the most obvious thing you would ever expect to put over the BioLizard. It's everyone's fan favorite, and it wouldn't be a Dolphin video without a Knuckles reference. Yep, it's Chomps from Sonic Underground. This is Knuckles' basically pet dinosaur that he keeps on Angel Island in that show. Funny thing about Sonic Underground, it was the very first Sonic spin-off I had ever seen as a kid, even predating Archie for me, which is probably what opened my eyes to the idea of SatAM's Robotnik and the Resistance and everything. Yeah, I eased into it because of Sonic Underground. I am it's so interesting, you know, just seeing Shadow the Hedgehog paired up against something from Sonic Underground. two wildly different things creatively. Now, I actually quite admire this model for Chomps because Sonic Underground is pretty unpopular and niche. It's one of the few Sonic things that I do not like. So it's kind of impressive to see such a well-modeled and textured model of something from that poorly animated, poorly drawn cartoon with really basic designs. He doesn't have wings, so this is a little bit awkward. The shape of him fits the BioLizard really well, actually, if you go back and look at some screenshots of Chomps from the cartoon. His face shape and the way that his body is shaped with the big belly and the 4 legs, like, everything checks out the way it should. Now, another thing you'll notice here is that I am using the 3DS Shadow model. Because, if you remember, BioLizard was in the original Sonic Generations, but only in the 3DS version. So how fitting is it that I'm using the 3DS Shadow model for what originated in the 3DS version of Generations? This is the singular piece of content from Generations 3DS that made it into the console version. By the way, I am a little bit sad to beat up Chomps. He's just a little guy. He's loyal, he's protective of Knuckles and the island. He didn't do anything wrong. You know, it is nice to see him get some spotlight. Shadow looks kind of pretty skating around and gliding off the floor with this model. I don't know what it is about it that looks particularly nice to me. Just kind of like his sharp, rougher edges, fitting the high frame rate animations. I mean, 3DS Shadow might be a pretty good mod to use if you have a lower spec build. Oh, this is gonna look pretty cool, actually. I'm sorry, Chomps. You didn't deserve that. That being said, as always, every mod used today will be linked down in the description below. Go give them some love, and if you're new here, consider checking out my Sonic modding playlist. I like to cover all kinds of Sonic content, both fan-made and official, but this is the meat and potatoes of what I usually do. If you like my analysis, why don't you watch some more, huh? I don't know why, but like the black shade of this armor combined with the rocks floating in the sky looks really pleasing to my eye right now.